you have American culture with Will. There is like, I don't even know, South American culture at this point, but then there is God's culture.
Yeah.
And that's the one that we have decided to follow.
Welcome to our podcast again. We're so excited that you're watching this episode. I'm Giulia, and I have here with me
Musy Hart.
Will Hart. That was a lot,
like,
Giulia.
That was a lot.
That was very intensive intro.
Huh? I was like excited. You know?
It was great.
We're
No,
excited
it was
about
good.
the
I
topic.
just wasn't expecting it.
It's because you're criticizing our podcast because
No,
you have
no.
your own.
I mean,
Oops.
since you brought it up. No, it was just like, there was a, anyway.
Will has a podcast if you want to hear more about like theology and different things. Green Room. It's a great one, you know. I'm doing you a favor here. You know?
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
It's a good one.
We're going to talk about today one of the topics that I have so many friends that have been asking me about this, and I have just different people that in my community that they've been bringing up the topic. That's cross-cultural dating. And okay, I am Brazilian for you that don't know. And so, Musy, are you American?
No, I am not. I am Paraguayan.
Paraguayan. You will.
I'm
you are.
just red, white, and
His
blue.
own species.
I am America,
Oh, no way.
Right there.
Will is. Yeah.
but from Massachusetts, so it's a
Okay.
different species.
I get it.
It really is.
So we have Musy, that's Paraguayan, Will, that's American, and they've been married for 20 years,
20
right?
years.
20 years. That's a big deal, guys.
Let's go.
Like, yeah, I legit admire their marriage and like the way
Do
they do
you
family.
really?
I do. I get to see like the inside of it, and I love it.
Never boring, right?
It's never boring for sure. Never boring for sure.
Hold on, what does it mean that you've seen the inside of our marriage? What, I feel like we should explain that before you keep going. Like, I don't know what that means.
That she's
It's
in the
like
house, she's around
the joy,
dinners.
the
is
fight,
fun.
the
Yes.
hard moments,
Yes.
the joyful
Behind the
moments.
scenes.
Behind the
is
scenes.
probably
That's
better
a
than
better
inside
way to
of our
put
marriage.
it.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
I got you. I got you,
Thank
Jill.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I want to start by asking.
That is a good.
Am I looking at cameras? Am I looking at you guys?
We're more. You can look at us or cameras. I want to start asking the question of what was the most challenging thing, or like some of the challenges that you guys faced because it was a cross-cultural dating. And for you that don't know, and I just wanted to share it to you, I was actually like looking up the statistics because I was curious, like, hey, so how many people? And it's actually 20% of people in the world now that have cross-cultural marriages. And it's not even dating, but marriage. So probably that number is way higher with dating, you know, like there are more people dating than married.
I
But
wonder how many stay married.
that's a great question.
How would you say that?
I'm just curious.
Because it's hard. Let's talk about the challenges.
Oh.
Some of
No,
the
everything
challenges you guys
everything
face.
is roses. Everything is just like goes.
Yeah.
So well, there's never differences. We agree on everything. Not.
I don't know if we're gonna be serious and answer the question or just. There's a lot of challenges, but I've never been I've never seen a relationship that doesn't have challenges.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the question is like, what are the challenges because we come from two different cultures.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think, babe? You got anything?
There are so many. We had I spoke English, you know, so we
Yeah.
can understand, but I don't think I understood the culture.
Yeah. I
Which
feel
is
you. Oh,
Which
I
so
feel you.
the more and then there is a difference between like where I'm from South America, right?
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. And being in the South in America land and up north,
Mm-hmm.
it is very different on how you
Yeah.
say stuff,
Uh-huh.
and they're a little more cold, I think, and
Yeah.
up there. But I don't think he,
Like,
Listen, this has nothing to do with you being from South America. Okay.
yes, it is.
Yeah,
the way.
let me just bring a little light
Okay.
into
What?
this tunnel of.
Oh wow.
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay, number one, there's you have two different cultures, so you have two different languages. First
Yeah.
thing is communication.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of every relationship.
Say more about that to me, like the importance of communication in even more in a cross culture like relationship, because I live with Jess now, and she's an American and Brazilian. It helps that she lived in Brazil for 2 years and a half. But even our relationship not being, you know, like being like mentor and mom and daughter, it's very much like there are things that I say that she's like, oh, you're being rude. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah.
So like the importance of communication.
I'll give you an example. I told my son once that he was being a sore loser. Okay. So for anybody, like for me, that means that you're not, like you're being like you're complaining.
Like, yeah, you can see the difference.
Right? You're like acting like baby. And all she heard was like, you just called my son a loser.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Translating
and so,
literally in my head.
So I have to sit there and be like, no, this is actually what it means. Like, here's the definition. It means like somebody who's not losing well. Like they're being pouty about it.
Yeah.
They're not being fun because of it.
Yeah.
It's not a negative thing. So it's simple things like that.
Yeah.
So
But there are better ways to say it instead of.
but that's another question, or that's another time. So I will just say the foundation of all relationship is communication.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of the biggest foundations,
Issues.
and it's something you're gonna have to work on for the rest of your life. So already there's a gap.
Yeah.
Right. In that. She can hear me say something and take it a totally different way.
Yeah.
Second thing is culturally, I have a lot of things that I grew up doing, right? So I think if you marry or date someone, I would say and this varies even in the States from city to city,
different regions.
state, yep. But when you're talking about South America and America, like for New Year's, like Christmas isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Christmas, it's a big deal, but they celebrate it totally differently than what we do.
Yeah, we celebrate like we
At night,
dinner,
yes.
yeah,
Right.
it's super different.
So it's just those teeny little things. So for me, I could get her a bunch of gifts, let's just say. And in South America, they do like one gift and they give it to you the night before Christmas. And then they like stay up super late.
Yeah.
Like I want to go to bed early because we have a long day the next day.
Yeah.
And I know that seems trivial or can seem trivial, but those little things are very, very important.
Yeah,
to her.
those were hard the first few years.
So we had to navigate like, okay, we're going to do Christmas this way, or we're going to do a birthday this way. Like, I don't know, we give gifts. You know, Musy's more, this is an example. Like she's more like, we want to write cards and make something. And for her, that connects with her heart. For me, giving gifts connects with my heart. It's the little things like that that I think are a bigger gap. And then on top of that, I say within marriage, but even with dating, it was very weird having my in-laws or, you know, my girlfriend's parents, like having those times of communication, just being able to talk.
Yeah.
So every time I show up to Paraguay, I speak a little bit of Spanish. I always would like offend people.
Yeah.
Because I'd just be like, I'm just off doing my own fun.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, he's just lazy. And I'm like, I can't do anything.
I can't talk. Communicate.
Visiting each other's parents, I think for years was very awkward.
Yeah.
Where I think if you speak the language, you know what's going on. That stuff is a lot less awkward. But imagine not being able to talk.
Yeah, I get it. And that was gonna be my next question. It goes into family. Like I know that you made a pretty big effort even learning Spanish and Musy with your parents, like the culture. Talk to me about it. Like how does that work? Because even in my situation, like I have a dad, my mom and my dad, they speak English, but it's like very basic English. So like I know that you took the effort. You already knew a little bit of Spanish because you were going to Paraguay.
Yep.
So
and she helped me learn it too while we were friends.
So how do you do that? And like even in which stage do you start going like, okay, is after I'm pretty sure that she's gonna be the one that I'm gonna marry, and then I'm gonna go all in, or like since the beginning of dating I already, because she's from a different culture, I already wanna go all, you know, like.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, wait.
But I think another major foundation in any relationship is learning to love and appreciate the things that your significant other loves and appreciates.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, you actually have to go all in. Where in an international or cultural marriage, like I actually had to take time, learn the things that she liked, learned about the culture, and that takes
Time.
That takes intentionality.
Yeah.
Right? Where I've seen a lot of people get married, different cultures, and they're just like, you have to accept me for as I am, as I am.
Yeah.
And you just need to jump into my world. But that needs to be reciprocated. So she needs to learn my culture. I need to learn her culture.
Yeah.
And those moments of clash are the best. If we keep it lighthearted, if we don't, it becomes a place that can actually divide us apart.
Yeah.
Like I went to go shoot guns with a friend. Musy's like, "What guns?" Like, you know,
It's all
Okay, South America guns bad. Like there isn't
like,
a good situation.
I would just say they're bad anyway for the most part. But
well, just the thought of it. Now
We
I
have
have
a
a
culture of it
different.
here.
You have a culture here, but I'm like in Paraguay it was not. Anytime you got a gun, it was illegal.
Yeah.
And the only ones that haven't are either the thieves or the cops or military people. Like you don't
Brazil's
people
the
don't go.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he started saying that, and it was just like, what? I'm like,
But I'll never forget skeet shooting with her for the first time. And like she's like and like puts the gun in the ground, like walks away. Like she took effort. And I think that's the thing, right? In any relationship.
Yeah.
But you have to do more of that with the cross-cultural
How do you get to that
relationship.
middle ground? Is it through communication, or is there like I do have to give up something, she has to give up something? Or,
It's both, yes.
Would you say it's giving up or it's adding something more?
I think that there are times, like in general, once you learn from each other, you both add more to it. But there has to be the give and take because you can't. To build something, you can only build on one person. Yeah. And there are some marriages that do it that way, but one of them will shut down to be able for the other person to keep doing that. We had a lot of funny moments as like we were in YPI and the first one, our first trip, we were dating. And having one of our cultural moments, it was just like, okay, let's meet in the first floor. And then I'm like, hey, where are you? And he's like, I'm in the first floor. And I'm like, no, I am. No,
I remember
I
that
am.
story.
And it was just like, we learned in that moment that we were in two different floors. So
And the
Brazil, Paraguay.
It's a funny analogy, but really she is on a totally different floor. I'm on a totally different floor. Why? Because this is the first floor.
For
America
Yeah.
land.
Yes.
But for me, first floor is the one that is on top.
That's statue.
Yeah.
And then you have
It's
first
ground.
floor.
Yeah, it
ground.
still doesn't make
level.
sense.
So we were, and I was just like, oh, this is a cultural moment. It was so funny. Both of us were like, no, I'm here. No, I'm here.
I'm here, yeah.
And realizing, okay, so like, you're going to have a lot of conversations. And honestly, I would say for my part, I don't think I was too good the first few years at communicating. I was just telling him and I was frustrated. And I think he was doing the same thing. We were both just frustrated. And so I think communication's finally gotten better after close to 20 years.
So there are battles that you have to, but you're going to have that in any relationship. What I also like to see is you're not just taking on another culture or partaking in another culture. You're opening yourself up to another part of the globe. Yeah. Right. So you're it's less of like dying to yourself. You're really opening yourself up to an entire whole other section of the world, at least in our case. So, and then I will never forget it. It was during all the race riots and stuff like that a few years ago, and I'd never even, like, for me, she's my wife. Like, I was like, hey, do you ever like face this? And she was like, yes. And I was like, what? It was shocking.
Yeah.
And it was another friend of mine who was actually a pastor, a well-known pastor in Brazil. He's like, Will, you should speak into this. And I was like, I have nothing to speak into this. Like, I don't even know. He's like, Will, what are you talking about? You have a South American wife. You're from America. You love the Lord. You have these kids. And I like actually never even thought about that. Like I was like, hold on, I am racially diverse in my family. Like I didn't even think about that. And part of that is, well, we're all light skinned, but for the first time I was like, hold on, like this is actually something that I've invested my life into. Yeah. And we do, maybe there is something that we can say in the middle of this. And that's one of the things that I never even knew. So there's bonuses there's things that happen that you don't even know that you actually only find out years down the road. Yeah. And not that we had answers or anything, but I never even saw us as that. I legit never even saw us as like a multi.
Really?
No. And what?
Like you're married to Paraguay.
Because it's for me, it's like none of it has ever been based on that. It's just like I found the woman that I love. I found the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and it's amazing what other cultures can actually, the opportunities that it brings. Like I said, I say this all the time. Like I'm like, hey guys, in Brazil, in any Spanish speaking country, I'm like, hey, I want you all to know, like you might not know this, but I'm 100% Latino. and I call the biblical one flesh clause. And even that, like I'm being goofy. Yeah, no. I can actually like I can actually connect with
so many
South America in a way that I've never been able to do. So it really does. It opens up doors that I never imagined would ever be open, and I can relate to people. I'm safer for people, I guess.
Yeah.
And just for the record, because I know he has said this many, many times, I don't know. I don't carry a knife around me.
She does.
And pull it out.
She does.
Because he is a. But one of the things that we still are growing is there is man culture and then there is God culture. So he has his culture.
I would say man's culture and God's. This is the way men culture is different. But what you just saw,
the culture
was all the time. She said there's men culture. Well, what does that even mean?
Okay, let me put it.
Our
But
that is our daily.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, what do you mean with that?
I'm her translator.
My interpreter.
Yeah.
So you have American culture with Will. There is like, I don't even know, South American culture at this point. But then there is God's culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the one that we have decided to follow. And though there's still flesh that needs to keep growing and being sanctified and all that stuff. But I want to encourage everybody. This isn't just like, oh, it's mine. Or and I love, was it Teresa Engel? Is that what I am trying to butcher it?
Yeah.
Whoever
Lou
runs.
Engel's wife.
Yeah. Whoever runs to the cross.
First one to the cross.
First one to the cross wins. And
so
I have seen like people validating their pain. And that's why they are not able to move forward in their walk with the Lord in their marriage.
Yeah. I remember like right when I moved here, I spent like some time here. Then I just went back to Brazil, just got back. And you're kind of in that space where it's like, okay, I'm too American for Brazilians, but I'm too Brazilian for Americans. And I got to this stage inside of myself that I was like, Lord, so who am I? You know? And I remember that the Lord he kept saying like, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine. And that like kingdom identity came first. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is not just for my life, but for my dating life, for everything. It applies to everything. Like kingdom comes first. So talking about it, can you guys talk to me about like, even when we put culture aside, what dating according to the Bible looks like? Because if I open my Bible, I can't find the word dating here. Like, so what does it look like? Like a brief
Can
thing.
I speak to that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Can I say something that might be a little controversial?
Yeah, go for it.
No. Let me just share this because I am one of the leaders in a pretty large missions organization. So I live in the world where people go overseas and they meet other cultures, right? Because we serve other cultures. And one of the things that I've noticed is, if we're talking about dating different cultures, is if you're going into rescue. And I know that sounds weird, but if you're like, oh, I'm going to help this culture and I'm going to date this person because I'm going to help raise them up, like that is insanity.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at how many people do that because their heart might break for a culture, their heart might be drawn to a culture. I want to say this: you need to go and find your equal, right?
That's good.
Equal. The Bible says we're called to be equally yoked, and I would say this: like very rarely. When you see a massive culture shift, and I'm going to just use the extreme, like from the mountains in the bush in the middle of nowhere. I'm not saying it can't happen. I know it has happened. Yeah. But I would say in general, when I see missionaries that enter into those relationships where there's such a vast culture difference, can it work? Yes. Does it work? It has a lot more challenges, like a lot more challenges because that culture difference is there. And I'm talking about someone that's like, grew up not with electricity. Yeah. And I've witnessed this a lot.
The mindset's completely different.
And I've also witnessed it in the genders. Right. And I had witnessed that playing a major role in it as well. Yeah. And so like, as we're talking about culture, right? I can't talk about this without saying a thing that I've seen like really some pitfalls in. Yeah. And every time I've seen it is when like I'm going to go and rescue someone, regardless of the culture, regardless of the person, even in America, like I'm going to be their rescuer. That's very, very, very dangerous.
The white savior complex.
Yes.
I've seen it in
even
every,
here.
I've seen it in every way, shape, and form. So yeah, I don't know. Take it or leave it. You can hate me for saying it, but it's what I get to live in every day, and I've witnessed a lot in 24 years of missions, going around and taking teams around the world. Yeah, yeah. It's really good, but it can also be really, really difficult. And those real big difficulties, if it's not done well and with a heart for the Lord and with humility, you'll actually end up like any relationship hurting each other.
Yeah. And I think we talked some about it, but bringing back to the place of like surround yourself with community. They're also going to be able to like tell you and say like, hey, this is a great option. Actually, might not be the best match, and different things. Give us your perspective on like dating aside from culture too,
Oh,
Musy wanted a green card. That was actually. I'm going to talk about this for a second. I'm joking. I'm joking. By the way, can I talk about this for 1 second? Because that was actually a thing when we started dating.
Yeah,
and people would come up to me and be like, "Hey, she probably just wants a green card." They didn't know her.
So many people make that joke about me.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're actually talking about dating outside of another nation, that is a stigma, right?
Yeah.
And why? Because it happens. I find most stigmas are there because there's some kernel of truth somewhere in there. Yeah. And that was a thing. So we even got to navigate that. And I just want you to know, like, I almost threw down with a couple of people, like, because what they're saying when they say that is like, she's a liar.
Yeah.
Right? She's deceitful. And I'm like just so full of lust or whatever that I can't even see straight.
She's using you to get to something.
And so, but you know what? You get to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
And we get to prove people wrong.
Yeah. There's so many comments that I've received of like, oh yeah, you want to stay longer? Like, oh, just go marry an American. It's like, no.
Oh, you need way more to sustain you.
Yeah.
Oh, you need way more to sustain you.
How does that make you feel?
It made me feel so horrible. Like, oh, you don't actually know me.
Right.
Like, I'm not here because I want something that's going to be done through my will or my strength.
Yep.
Like, if I'm supposed to be in America, the Lord will sustain me here, Like, it doesn't matter if I marry an American or if I marry whoever it is. Like, I want to marry a person that the Lord has for me. And I love that thing. That's like, marriage is not just like, I don't know, a style match, because people say, oh, you got a style, like we got to match in style or vibe or whatever.
I have not heard that
yet.
Gross.
Yeah. And
okay, I will tell you one thing.
Match purposes.
That is not going to sustain you in bed. That's not going to sustain you when you got to pay bills. That is not going to sustain you. I went there.
Hallelujah. What we're talking about.
No, because it's ridiculous. I'm like, you. Oh my Lord, mercy. Yeah, I haven't heard that one. That was a new one.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you got to match my vibe, because otherwise, it's so common and so norm.
Really? Is that what they?
Yeah, and I'm like, there's actually so much more to marriage than just using someone to get to the place that you want to be.
Well, marriage is not about you, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
There's a lot more to marriage than that, than what you just said. Like, in fact, I would say that's not even about marriage, but I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
But we're going to do an entire thing just on marriage, and diving deep into like what marriage is and what it's for. But even with dating, like, can you guys just talk tiny bit and then we can wrap it up? Like,
we're not the best at this because we didn't really date. Like, honestly, yes. Okay, well, let me just clarify. Okay, like we didn't really date. Quite. We were friends for we were friends for a couple of years.
Yeah,
right.
Just friends. And then I moved to America. I moved back to America. She stayed in Paraguay. She moved to America like a year later, and I was like, man, I want to get married. And I made my list in my head, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she fits everything.
Yeah.
So boom. The first time I saw you in 2 years. We had talked on the phone. Emailed. Yeah. We used to email each other.
Okay, this is email. How are you doing?
I would go down to the public library.
That was it.
And so
I emailed you. What's up?
When I first saw her,
right?
Can you try a little harder?
Yes. That was
are you guys having a good time?
Oh yeah, but I'm like, we gotta explain what you meant. Like we keep in communication. I'm like, that is not communication.
So the first time I saw her in years, I was like, hey, I want to marry you. That was, and so for us,
I know it's the lore.
You keep saying that, and
you told me that,
girl. I was right.
You were right, but I needed to hear that too.
Right.
You don't go in just from one side.
So we didn't do your classic dating. I never dated. Musy never dated.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah. You gotta check.
Making sure.
See if the story still is
the
same after all these years. So I never dated. She never dated.
Yeah.
So that was our first experience, but it really was courting. I think your classic courting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'd be the best.
No, just give me a general, like, I want to hear both of you guys giving a general like advice for someone that's entering into a cross-cultural relationship in general, if that's first dating or marriage.
Just get to know each other, you know. And I know if you're, hopefully you're in the same place, really get to know each other and get to know each other with community, with people. I think it's the best thing. And once you start being intentional, I wish our pastors would have drilled us a little bit more before we got married. I really wish, because I'm like, maybe our eyes would have been open to what was coming. I don't know, but we needed a lot of help, and I think some of that stuff could have been avoided if we would have had a lot more of a spanking before we got married, or just somebody guiding you on like how you do finances, how do you do communication.
You're just talking about like legit basic marriage counseling. It has nothing to do with our cultures.
Well, but I'm like,
but that's great advice, dude.
But for me, it is. I'm like, these are stuff that you're gonna need.
Yeah, no matter.
Yeah, no matter what. But I find it. I think it's important. I don't know that you always can do it. If you have the opportunity to go and know the person's culture, because he has a better idea. Instead of like him not understanding anything when it comes to Paraguay, because he lived there, you know, and it's important. You get a different background, a different understanding of things. He doesn't get it 100%, but he's lived there for a year or two.
One of the things that I processed was, am I willing to leave America to go and live in Paraguay for the rest of my life to pursue this woman?
Yeah.
100%. These are things that you don't normally think about, right? Am I willing to give up everything I know, my culture, all this stuff? Yes. So for me, it wasn't about a culture. It was about her. It was about her heart. It was about her love for the Lord, her passion for the Lord. So I don't have, like, we didn't have this big dating thing, which we should have done better, but we didn't. But at the end of the day, I am richer because of Musy's culture. And my kids have a benefit in that. And, you know, the world is changing from even when we got married 20 years ago. You have a totally different globe, right? There's globalization. Like the internet was a thing when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, it became a thing. And next thing you know, like, nations are touching nations now. The ease of getting around is so much different than what it used to be.
Yeah.
This is a thing that's going to happen more and more. It is happening more and more. And giddy up. Just be wise. Yeah. And be ready for people to make comments. And honestly, none of that bothers me. When people tell me about green cards and stuff, I'm like, heck yeah, she does. I was like, and she got it.
About it. She got it. Good for her. Yeah.
So we get married. How are we do?
We're way past time. But
okay. Then that's fine. We'll tell the joke another time. It's fine.
I was just literally going to say, like, I love what you said. I have friends that went to Brazil, came back, and they can understand me culturally so much better, you know, and it's even, like, helpful to me and for me, like, hey, you actually, like, if I make a joke, you see that's not offensive. Like, you're understanding me. So I cannot even imagine that in a dating marriage level. You know,
can't be easily offended.
Yeah. Oh.
They're gonna call. I've got called so many names, and it's like you have to.
My skin is way thicker. Like after I moved here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for just bringing your perspective. We're so happy that you watched this podcast. Like, comment, hit the bell, and just keep up with the next episodes that we're going to post on this channel. And thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome.
Love you. That's it. Bye.